Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so today we're getting into something, well, a bit ironic in the financial world, isn't it? Continuity planning for advisors. I mean, if you're an advisor, your whole job is building these rock-solid plans for clients, retirement, estates, legacy, all of it. But how often do you really turn that same critical eye onto your own business? What actually happens to, probably your biggest asset if suddenly you just can't show up?
Exactly. And that gap, that neglect, it's really what we're digging into today. Our mission here for you listening is to give you the tools, the understanding to protect your life's work. Make sure you leave behind security, not chaos and uncertainty. We're pulling from some really strong insights here, mainly from the 2025 white paper, Continuity Planning for Financial Advisors by Brian Doherty over at Advisor Legacy. This isn't just theory, right? It's about preserving real enterprise value.
Yeah, and what really struck me diving into this is that continuity planning isn't just like getting a lawyer to draft something you stick in a file. Is way more fundamental. It's really a core professional duty. It shields your equity, it protects your clients, looks after your family, keeps your team stable, especially when things go sideways in a crisis. It's like the ultimate insurance for your practice's future. Okay, so let's unpack that. Starting with, maybe, the cost. What happens when it all goes wrong? When we think about the risk, I mean, if an advisor passes away unexpectedly or becomes incapacitated, the scale of what's at stake is just huge, isn't it? It's not just like a dip in revenue. It sounds more like an immediate systemic breakdown. The white paper talks about these 4 pillars of risk. What starts crumbling first?
Well, the first thing you realize is the practice itself is. It's kind of a perishable asset, right? Often built entirely around one person. The second that person is out of the picture, permanently or even temporarily, the clock is ticking loudly. And that first pillar to buckle is equity at risk. You might think your practice is worth, say, 3x or 4x recurring revenue today. But without a clear, legally solid continuity plan, poof, that value can just vanish.
Vanish. You mean the multiple just collapses? How fast are we talking? Like days?
Oh, incredibly fast. Often the moment the word gets out that the advisor isn't coming back, that multiple could plummet, maybe down to 1x revenue, sometimes even less. Because the core asset, that reliable client relationship, that enterprise value, it's perceived as gone.
Yeah.
And there's more. Compliance kicks in immediately. If there's no authorized successor named, client accounts might get frozen, trading stops. The firm could instantly be non-compliant, which of course pushes any potential sale value down even further.
Right, that immediate compliance angle, the account's freezing, that makes it really visceral. It's not just about potential future value loss. The whole machine just grinds to a halt, which I guess leads straight into that second pillar you mentioned, clients in limbo.
Absolutely. Think about it from their perspective. And your fiduciary duty. Clients trust you. They rely on you. Suddenly, they can't reach the person they've built that trust with over years. Their security shattered. And the source material is really clear on this. Clients don't just sit around waiting for the family to sort through legal stuff. They need reassurance now. So almost inevitably, they start moving, looking for another advisor who can give them that certainty, that immediate service, and that just accelerates the equity problem we were just talking about.
And while all this business chaos is happening, the advisor's family, they're hit with the third pillar, this awful family burden.
Yeah, the human cost. It's easy to forget in the financial analysis. The family's already grieving. But now, they're suddenly thrown into managing a complex business, a business they probably have zero expertise in, legally or financially. They're facing payroll, leases, regulators, client calls, plus the terrifying thought that their main financial support might be disappearing. A plan, even a basic one, acts like a roadmap. It gives clear steps, lifts that immediate business weight off their shoulders when they're least able to handle it.
Okay, and the last piece of this breakdown, the team. The people who actually run the day-to-day, keep clients happy. They're facing team uncertainty.
That's right. Staff often describe this kind of sudden loss as just completely destabilizing. You can imagine. Morale just craters. And, critically, your key people. They start looking elsewhere. Immediately. Why wouldn't they? Without a named interim leader, without clear procedures, basically, an emergency org chart client service starts to slip and their own jobs feel insecure. And if a key operations person or client service manager leaves, you lose another layer of that relationship glue, and even more clients might head for the door.
It all really comes together in this idea of the cost of inaction. This is where it gets, well, pretty stark, actually, because the source material uses this anecdote, the story, that really shows how it fails. An advisor passes suddenly, no plan in place.
Yes, and it's worth understanding the mechanics of why it failed, not just the outcome. In that common scenario, no plan meant no pre-agreed value, right? No named successor ready to step in, no communication plan. So when the advisor passed, the family legally couldn't even access essential business accounts. Compliance reasons. The team. They were rudderless, confused. They could maybe answer the phone, do basic admin, but that's it.
So the business was basically flash frozen, couldn't operate.
Precisely. And within about 3 months, because there was no authorized successor to take over and no way to communicate professionally with clients about what was happening, clients started leaving in droves. The paper mentions the family did eventually try to sell what was left. But how do you value recurring revenue when the client base is vanishing before your eyes? The end result. The family got pennies on the dollar for the practice value, much less than maybe life insurance was supposed to cover, because the actual asset, the clients, had dissolved. And the tragedy is it was almost entirely preventable. So this brings up a really key question, moving past the sort of technical disaster scenarios. If the risk is this bad, why don't more advisors have solid plans? Why the procrastination?
Well, I suspect it's that classic avoidance thing, right? And nobody really enjoys thinking about their own mortality or, getting seriously ill. But what I liked about the white paper here is how it pivots. It really emphasizes the upside, the psychological win. Yeah. That's where it gets fascinating. It's not really about planning for the end. It's more about planning for continuation, for living better now.
That's exactly it. You shift the focus from dread to control. Agency. The source talks about 3 really powerful feelings that advisors often mention after they finally get this done. The first one, maybe the most common, is just this deep peace of mind. And it's not vague, right? It's specific. It's knowing, okay, whatever happens to me, my clients won't be abandoned, my family won't face financial ruin on top of grief, and my team has a path forward.
Right, and that connects directly to the second feeling they mention, legacy fulfillment. Advisors don't usually see their practice as just numbers on a spreadsheet. It's built on years of trust, real relationships. Finishing the plan means those relationships don't just evaporate. They can transition with dignity, hopefully to a successor who actually respects that legacy, instead of it just becoming some fire sale.
And the third piece is empowerment. Going through this process, it forces you to look at the what-ifs, the really unpredictable stuff, and actually create solutions. You stop being potentially a victim of circumstance, and you become, the architect of your practice's future, even if you're not there. There was a great quote in the paper, an advisor saying something like, I thought this would be morbid and difficult, but honestly, I just felt relieved. Like I finally checked off the biggest unspoken worry on my professional list.
Yeah, that sense of control. Choosing security, knowing you've done the right thing, that's the payoff. It's really about leadership, isn't it? Taking responsibility for the whole ecosystem you've built. Okay, so if the payoff is peace of mind, and the risk is, frankly, catastrophic, what does a good plan, a solid blueprint, actually involve? This is where we get into the nuts and bolts. You said it doesn't have to be crazy complicated, but it needs to cover the key bases. What are they?
Absolutely. There are 5 core elements that create that stability. Number 1 is successor selection. Pretty obvious, but crucial. You have to really identify who you trust to step in. Is it someone inside the practice, a partner? Is it a peer you respect outside the firm, or maybe one of these larger firms that specialize in this? And you also need to be clear. Is this just an emergency break glass in case of fire plan, or is it tied into your eventual retirement or exit strategy too?
And deciding who then obviously drives the second element, valuation and terms. Because if you haven't agreed on how much it's worth before something happens, you're basically setting up a fight.
Oh, absolutely. Guaranteeing a dispute or at least massive uncertainty and delay. You need a pre-agreed formula. Some mechanism locked in that sets a fair price. This stops that catastrophic value drop we talked about. The terms need to spell out how the payout works, lump sum, installments, based on retention. And the valuation method itself, multiples of revenue, EBITDA, some hybrid. Getting specific here protects the family's asset from day one.
Okay, third element, the legal framework. You mentioned compliance earlier. A handshake deal or, a note in your desk drawer isn't going to cut it in finance.
Not even close. For this audience, we know it needs to be formal. It's got to go beyond just a line in your will. You need a proper, legally binding document, a buy-sell agreement, maybe a contingency practice agreement, and it needs to be drafted by an attorney who actually understands the financial services industry, its regulations. This document defines the trigger's death, disability, maybe temporary incapacity, and lays out the exact legal steps for the transfer. It helps bypass those awful probate delays.
Right. Element number 4. This one seems like it could easily get overlooked, but sounds critical for keeping clients' communication strategy.
It's huge. This can literally be the difference between clients fleeing and clients staying put, feeling reassured. A good strategy outlines how you'll tell people when and what you'll say. Think pre-drafted letters, talking points for the successor or the team. The goal is to project immediate competence, stability. Reassure clients the system is working, they're cared for. You're essentially trying to transfer their trust from you, the individual, to the successor and the continuity framework itself.
Makes sense. And that leads to the fifth piece, which kind of fights against that set it and forget it's problem. Regular review. This isn't a one and done thing.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Life happens, right? Your practice grows significantly, you get married or divorced, maybe a key partner leaves or retires. Any major change means you have to revisit the plan. We generally recommend a dedicated review, say, every 2 to 3 years, minimum, or immediately after any big life or business event. Honestly, an outdated plan can sometimes be almost as bad as no plan. It gives you this false sense of security.
Okay, that totally tracks. So let's talk about overcoming inertia. For someone listening now, realizing, uh-oh, I'm exposed here, they get the why, now they need the how. What does this all mean for actually getting started? What are the first, actionable steps you can take today based on this material?
Yeah, the good news is the first steps aren't overwhelmingly complex. Step 1, just assess your practice. Get real about its current value. Understand your specific regulatory risks, and maybe just map out, literally list everyone, family, staff, clients who'd be impacted if you weren't there tomorrow.
Okay, assessment first, then step 2.
Identify trusted partners. This means really thinking through and maybe having some initial confidential conversations about who could realistically step in. Don't just think about who you like personally. Who has the actual capacity, the right licenses, the right service model? Do they align with your philosophy? This is often the toughest part, but it's essential. Third, accept you need help. Engage professional support. You absolutely need a specialized attorney for the legal side, probably a valuation expert to help set those terms fairly up front. Trying to DIY this or cut corners on professional fees, that's being penny wise and pound foolish, truly.
Right, get the experts involved. Fourth step.
Communicate. And this loops back to that emotional payoff. Share the fact that you're doing this or that a plan exists with your family, with key team members, not necessarily the dollar figures right away, but the process. Let them know there's a plan, a framework, so they wouldn't be left completely in the dark, guessing.
Okay, communicate the process exists. And finally,
That crucial last step, schedule the review cycle. While it's fresh in your mind, actually put the date for the first review or the next one in your calendar. Today, don't just say, I'll do it next year. Block out the time. It reinforces that continuity planning isn't an afterthought. It's active leadership. It's about protecting everyone who depends on you and safeguarding the business you poured your life into.
yeah, the message really comes through loud and clear. Professional responsibility, it absolutely extends beyond just managing client money. If you don't plan, you're leaving behind uncertainty, maybe chaos. If you do plan, you're providing security. It protects your equity, your clients, your family, your team. It really feels like the ultimate sign of professional maturity.
Exactly. And maybe one final thought to leave you with, something to really chew on. If we agree that a practice's true value is built on relationships and trust, think beyond the standard valuation metrics for a moment. What are those subtle things, those non-quantifiable bits of your specific relationship with your clients, that deep personal trust? Which of those elements are the most fragile? The ones likely to vanish first when that trust gets fractured by a sudden, unexpected event. And then the real challenge. How can your communication strategy, the one you design now, do more than just damage control? How can it actively work to transfer that specific trust, rebuild it with the successor, and keep clients loyal not just to a person, but to the lasting framework you created? Nailing that, that's the real test of your legacy planning.